Before the flood, before the ancient kingdoms, before any human memory, celestial beings broke through the sky and invaded the earth. They were called the sons of God. What they did here was not sacred. A forbidden pact spawned giants, corrupted magic, and a darkness that never left the world. Today, you will discover this hidden truth. But there's a detail that almost no one dares to mention. According to ancient manuscripts, not all the Watchers were captured. Some escaped before the flood and may have continued operating in the shadows of early civilizations. The question is, what if one of them is still among us, waiting for the moment to return? Long before any empire arose, there existed a celestial order destined to observe humanity without interfering. The Watchers. They were children of God, immense, luminous beings, bearers of cosmic wisdom and mysteries that even ordinary angels did not comprehend. Unlike the gentle image presented by modern tradition, ancient accounts describe their presence as overwhelming, almost unbearable to human eyes. Their every step reverberated like thunder. Each word seemed to bend the air. Their mission was simple: to monitor the evolution of humankind from a distance. But the boundary between observing and desiring was soon broken. As they contemplated human frailty, the Watchers began to be fascinated by the unpredictability, emotion, and freedom of our species. Something new was born within them, something that shouldn't exist. The rebellion didn't begin with shouts, but with silence, a dangerous silence, laden with intent. It was there that the world's destiny began to stray from its original path. As they watched the men building their first homes, creating rudimentary tools, and struggling to survive the cold of ancient nights, the Watchers began to feel something unexpected. Instead of remaining indifferent, they came to admire this creature so fragile and, at the same time, so stubborn. Humanity possessed neither strength nor grandeur, but it had something that enchanted even celestial beings: the capacity to dream. Ancient texts say that the Watchers saw in the daughters of men a beauty that did not exist in heaven, not just physical, but emotional. They cried, laughed, loved, feared intense, unstable, and profoundly human feelings. For beings made of absolute order, this spontaneity was fascinating. Gradually, observation turned into closeness. Closeness turned into desire, and desire something far more dangerous: intention. Semjaza, the leader of the Watchers, realized that many of his brothers had already crossed invisible lines. The fascination with humanity grew like a hidden flame and would soon become an uncontrollable bonfire. Mount Hermon, with its mist-shrouded peaks and ancient silence, became a stage for the greatest rupture between heaven and earth. It was there that Semjaza, realizing that the Watchers' desire had surpassed all limits, secretly summoned his brothers. They knew that descending and taking human women was an irreversible transgression, a direct affront to divine law. The punishment would be severe, perhaps eternal. Afraid to bear the weight of the rebellion alone, Semjaza proposed a dark pact. If one fell, they all fell together. The agreement was not merely symbolic. It was a union of destiny. Each Watcher swore, with words that echoed through the mountains, to accept the same judgment and share the same guilt. This pact is described in the texts as a moment of cosmic tension. The air is said to have trembled, the wind to have stopped, and the ground of Hermon to have vibrated with the decision of those colossal beings. There was no turning back. When they swore the oath, Mount Hermon received its symbolic name, the place of the curse. There, a brotherhood of angels sealed the most dangerous fall and high. Story. When the pact was sealed, the impossible happened. The sky, which had always been an impenetrable domain, opened into luminous fissures. The descent of the Watchers was neither silent nor discreet. Ancient accounts speak of fiery columns piercing the clouds, like stars falling at deadly speed. To primitive men, it seemed like the arrival of the gods. But they were not gods. They were voluntary exiles. Upon touching the earth's surface, their presence distorted nature itself. The air grew heavy, as if reality struggled to contain beings made of celestial energy. The surrounding plants bent over. Animals fled in panic, and the ground trembled under the force of bodies that should never have existed in the physical world. The impact of the descent was so profound that different cultures, Sumerians, Canaanites, Greeks, Hindus, recorded in myths the arrival of luminous beings from the sky. They all described the same phenomenon: light, fire, fall, and astonishment. Humanity believed it was the beginning of a new era of glory. But in reality, it was the beginning of its greatest sea, eruption. The daughters of men were fascinated by the unusual beauty and aura of authority surrounding the Watchers. These beings, who were supposed to remain distant observers, deliberately crossed the boundary between the divine and the human. Nothing happened on impulse. Every approach, every seduction, every ritual of union was meticulously planned. In various regions, accounts describe entire groups of Watchers choosing specific women, as if following a hidden map drawn from the sky. The result of these relationships was not only scandalous, it was unnatural. From incompatible natures was born something unstable, voracious, and unpredictable. Creatures that combined the brutal strength of fallen angels with human vulnerability and fury. These hybrids grew quickly, consumed vast amounts of resources, and knew no limits. Soon, entire villages disappeared, subjugated by beings that should never have existed. For the first time, humanity faced a threat that came not from heaven or earth, but from an abyss that opened up between them, an abyss created by forbid and choices. The children of the Watchers became known as the Nephilim, and nothing in creation could compare to them. The first generations emerged as colossal aberrations, beings whose very existence defied the laws of nature. Ancient accounts describe creatures that surpassed any human measure, 10, 20, and even 30 meters tall, with enough strength to break tree trunks like dry branches and crush stones with their bare hands. But size was only part of the horror. Their hunger seemed bottomless. First, they devoured entire herds. Then they ravaged crops, leaving barren regions. When resources ran out, they turned against other humans. And finally, even against themselves. Entire tribes disappeared without a trace, replaced by silent valleys filled with broken bones. As they grew in number, so did their cruelty. The Nephilim proclaimed themselves lords of the earth, forcibly built cities, enslaved peoples, and demanded worship as gods. Bloody cults were performed in their honor, while human kings were merely puppets before them. The terror instilled by the giants spread so widely that villages fled in their path before even seeing them. They were monsters, tyrants, and predators, living proof that the union between Watchers and humans had created something the world could never withstand. The giants were merely the most visible face of the devastation. The true corruption began when the Watchers decided to teach humans what should never have been revealed. They didn't just cross physical boundaries, they crossed spiritual limits. Metal weapons, once impossible to manufacture, became commonplace. Sharp blades, armor, tools of war. Human violence reached a new level. But metal was only the beginning. The Watchers transmitted knowledge of distorted astrology, celestial maps used not for study, but for control and manipulation. They taught incantations, invocation rituals, and formulas that manipulated forces that even humanity did not understand. Each village became a mystical laboratory, each leader an apprentice of black magic. The earth has entered a cycle of imbalance. Humans have begun to bargain with entities, to seek power through sacrifices, to consciously alter the destiny of others through occult practices. The spiritual world has been torn open, allowing influences that had never before existed among the living. The result? An unrecognizable humanity. Violent, arrogant, power-hungry. Corruption affected not only bodies or cities. It infected the very soul of creation, transforming Earth into a field for spiritual experiments. Among all the sins of the Watchers, none was as profound as the surrender of forbidden arts. Each angel brought with them a fragment of celestial knowledge, not to elevate humanity, but to mold it into a tool. Azazel was the most dangerous. He taught the extraction and smelting of metals, revealing how to create sharper blades, more resistant armor, and instruments capable of killing with unprecedented precision. He was the one who inaugurated the era of conscious warfare. Semjaza, the rebel leader, offered something even more toxic: incantations, spells, and formulas for spiritual manipulation. Under his influence, men and women began to invoke forces they barely understood, attempting to control entities and alter destinies. Each ritual opened breaches. Each invocation weakened the boundary between worlds. Baracle taught astrology, not as simple observation of the stars, but as a system of power, a map to predict, influence, and even corrupt events. Kokabeel, guardian of the firmament, revealed secrets that were not even freely shared among angels. Humans began to read the sky as a divine code, using constellations to detect periods of war, fertility, and death. The result was an explosion of forced evolution. Entire civilizations leaped centuries, acquiring advanced metallurgy, profound cosmologies, and magical practices that should only exist at higher levels of creation. Divine wisdom, when placed in immature hands, became pure poison. In a short time, the world was no longer a natural home for humankind. It was an arcane chessboard, controlled by invisible forces that influenced every decision, every war, every cult. Corruption had reached such a deep level that the earth itself seemed to agonize. Violence, bloodshed, sorcery, and spiritual arrogance permeated every corner. The Nephilim destroyed everything in their path. Humans, taught by the Watchers, manipulated forces that should have remained eternal and untouched. The Creator observed everything, and the verdict was inevitable. The divine decree was clear. The Watchers would be captured, their children exterminated, and the earth purified. The world needed to be reset before all of creation was swallowed by chaos. To fulfill this order, for colossal figures crossed the veil between the worlds. Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, and Uriel each carried with them absolute authority, written from the beginning of time. Miguel was given the mission to confront the leaders of the rebellion. Raphael was tasked with capturing Azazel and purifying the earth of his influence. Gabriel was to command the host that would destroy the giants. Uriel, the guardian of wisdom, was sent to warn the only righteous man remaining, Noah, about the impending flood. What followed was not an ordinary war, but an invisible cosmic conflict, fought between angels of unimaginable power and creatures that should never have existed. Each step of the archangels sealed a destiny. Each command was a sentence. The extent of the judgment transcended the physical world. It was a spiritual cleansing, absolute and inevitable. The celestial hunt began in absolute silence. The archangels descended not as messengers, but as executors of an eternal sentence. They knew exactly where to look. Deep caves, isolated valleys, chasms between mountains where the Watchers tried to hide after seeing their children, the giants, fall one by one. Michael, with authority over the celestial armies, broke hidden seals and found leaders like Sanjaza, broken by their own guilt, yet unable to flee. Raphael pursued Azazel to desert regions, where the Watcher had created fortresses of metal and dust. None of them resisted. Gabriel dismantled entire groups that attempted to regroup, destroying each focus of rebellion. When captured, the Watchers were chained with spiritual chains, made of a material that does not exist in the human world. Neither force, nor magic, nor forbidden knowledge could break them. Dragged to abyssal regions, they were led to Tartarus, a prison so deep and so isolated that it is not reached by light, sound, or hope. The Book of Enoch describes this place as an abyss of eternal shadows, where time does not flow and consciousness is forced to forever face the weight of each transgression. There the Watchers await the final judgment, when every act will be revealed before all creation. But there's one detail that changes everything. Not all were found. Some Watchers disappeared before capture, and their whereabouts were never explained. The fall of the giants did not happen quickly. It was brutal and inevitable. Long before the waters rose, they were already waging war amongst themselves, consumed by hunger, pride, and violence. Entire villages were destroyed not by angels or catastrophes, but by the Nephilim themselves, fighting for territory, food, and power. The earth was already bleeding when the flood was decreed. When the first rains began, many giants tried to resist. They climbed mountains, erected stone barriers. Some even invoked enchantments taught by their Watcher parents. but nothing worked. The fury of the waters was a judgment, and no hybrid power could nullify it. Ancient accounts say that their voices echoed through the valleys, cries that mixed pain, disbelief, and despair. Each advancing wave swallowed a part of their history, their strength, and their arrogance. In a short time, all their fortresses crumbled, and the survivors were dragged to the depths, where they met the same fate they had imposed on so many humans. But the physical end of the giants did not mean rest. According to the Book of Enoch, their souls became wandering spirits, trapped between worlds, corrupted and hostile. Entities that began to influence men through the shadows, giving rise to the evil spirits that would plague future generations. When the giants perished in the flood, only their bodies disappeared. Their souls, however, had no place in heaven, nor did they belong to earth. They were hybrids born of a forbidden union, and therefore no rest was possible. According to the Book of Enoch, from these distorted essences arose the so-called evil spirits, entities destined to wander eternally. These spirits carried the same hunger and violence that their bodies possessed in life. They became invisible predators, inclined towards chaos, fueling wars, murders, vices, and social disorder. Where humanity faltered, they fed. Where conflict arose, they stoked the flames. Without physical form, the spirits of the Nephilim began to silently infiltrate human lives, influencing impulses, emotions, and decisions. They did not seek redemption. They sought to continue the work of destruction they began when they walked among the living. Even today, ancient texts claim that these beings continue to operate, invisible but active, spreading the same kind of spiritual corruption that led the world to judgment. They are permanent echoes of the Watchers' rebellion, echoes that have never been silenced. Although most of the Watchers were found, chained, and cast into Tartarus, ancient manuscripts suggest that not all were captured. Some sensed in advance that judgment was approaching. Before the arrival of the archangels, they fled to remote and unexplored regions where the celestial presence would hardly be detected. These remnants mingled with the first civilizations that emerged after the flood, guiding them subtly, and sometimes not so subtly. Sumerian, Egyptian, pre-Columbian, Druidic, and even Asian iconography presents almost identical figures, winged or divinely ornamented beings, holding tablets of knowledge, astronomical instruments, keys, scepters, and symbols of power. In all these cultures, they appear in exactly the same way, as if they were the same type of entity repeated throughout the world. These figures are often associated with advanced teachings, writing, mathematics, agriculture, metallurgy, astronomy, and complex calendars, knowledge that seems to emerge from nowhere, without a period of gradual development. In some traditions, these celestial instructors are honored as gods. In others, they are feared as visitors who came to impose wisdom in exchange for worship. The Book of Enoch makes a disturbing suggestion. Some Watchers, after escaping, would wait silently until their imprisoned leaders, such as Simjaza and Azazel, were released in the end times. These fugitives would be like sleeping sentinels scattered across the earth, waiting for a signal. The question that continues to echo among researchers and scholars of the occult is inevitable. What if this wait is almost over? The Watchers may have been imprisoned, their children destroyed, and their stories buried by time. But their echoes still resonate on Earth. Every ancient myth, every symbol repeated in distant civilizations, may be a vestige of those who dared to defy heaven. If you want to continue uncovering dark secrets like this, share the video, and comment on what you believe happened to the Watchers who escaped. Subscribe for more dark dossiers from the Enigma Testament.